the standard rule with that sort of deindustrialization with labour force is because they're semi-skilled jobs. Yeah, 1/3 of people will find a job of equivalent standard in terms of income. 1/3 of people will take a drop but still find something to do. 1/3 of people will never work again, either voluntarily or involuntarily. That has been repeated over and over and over,
Yes.
where industries have been shut down. And you would say, why does that happen? Well, that's just the nature of that's the kind of workforce you end up with. Yeah,
And the implications of technology, right?
Yes.
And the evolution of how manufacturing has been produced,
correct.
right?
So,
yeah.
so you can now manufacture, as I mentioned before, you can go to a truck factory and watch 4 guys build trucks, thousands of them.
Incredible.
Yeah. Moving on.
And to your point, John, just staying on this. So, and Gillian, you might have seen it, but there's a graph. And basically, in terms of your manufacturing, but also in the technology industry. So we spoke of the 1970s to where we are today. Now, in terms of roles in technology, they've never really dipped. So there's never really been a decline of technology roles that have equated from this. And I'm sure Gillian and I are going to have a great, deep and meaningful on this, right, John? But to your point, the opportunity now to start a business, to build a new car based on what is available to them today has never been so easy ever before, right?
Well, yes and no. Because the easier you make it, the lower a barrier and entry you make to getting into a business,
Yes.
the more competition you generate, the more cutthroat it becomes, the more price-driven it becomes, the more difficult it is to make money, and people drop out the bottom.
Yes.
So you have a high burn rate, right? That's typically what happens. We see that in all sorts of industries. So the question, though, that we need to now interrogate is the AI revolution is at the very beginning. It's in its infancy. We've said it's in 2020, post-pandemic, basically,
Yes.
right? What sort of disruption is this going to do to not the industrial jobs per se, because that's already been sorted largely, the white-collar jobs?
Yes.
Yeah? And how are kids going to go from base level to management supervisory level if, as I suspect you're going to say, there's a hollowing out of something in between?
Yep.
I don't think there's any doubt that we're going through a technology revolution.
Yes.
And are you familiar with Carlota Perez? She's a Venezuelan economist who studies the history of technology revolutions. Fantastic kind of reference to sort of how helps me how we think about this. And she studies the Industrial Revolution that you mentioned, the introduction of electricity, the automobile. And it's a bit like that Gartner hype cycle that you mentioned, where we kind of have a curve for new technologies. This is kind of the cycle on the grand scale throughout history. And she has shown that time and time again, when these new technologies are introduced into the world, they follow the same sort of path. And the first path is they're kind of introduced, and there's an enormous, great expectation,
Huge,
hype,
this is the Gartner
a great
hype
bubble,
cycle.
the global
Yes,
burp.
yes.
And then exactly the same as the hype cycle, there's some sort of crash.
Yes.
And that crash could be a financial crash, could be the Great Depression, it could be a war, it could be but essentially it often requires a fundamental rewiring of institutions, our economic institutions, our business institutions, our political institutions, to some degree. And then hopefully we come out of that into some golden period where the benefits of the technology really become pervasive throughout society. And if you look at what's happening now in the geopolitical arena, you could argue that maybe we are starting to go through this great kind of disruption and the signs of this readjustment for a whole range of reasons. Obviously, what's happening
We
is
could
not
talk
just the
forever
AI.
about the economic reasons for that. And
So there's some sort of model that I think helps us think about. I think the impact will be profound. We can talk about jobs specifically. I'm sure we'll have opinions on that in a minute. But I think we're going through a period of profound change. Honestly, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. You look at experts, there are...
That is the most honest thing anyone can
Yes.
say.
Yes, it is.
We
nobody
don't
knows.
know,
We don't
really.
know.
We're
We don't
all
know.
trying to figure this out.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Do you agree? Or-
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're saying, even MIT, Harvard are trying to review how businesses now formed. We definitely know the displacement of jobs. So what jobs will be of the future. About 65 million new roles will be discovered as part of that.